Lewis Hamilton's performance at the Monaco Grand Prix was far from ideal and was marked by a tense exchange with his race engineer during the event. Even though he has been working with Riccardo Adami for a while, it is clear that their communication is still in the adjustment phase. Once again, the Italian team's strategy failed in critical aspects, and Hamilton's post-race statements left more questions than answers. This raises an inevitable question. What path will Hamilton follow at Ferrari after yet another frustrating race weekend? And more importantly, is he finally beginning to show the frustration that has been building since the start of the season? Lewis Hamilton left Monte Carlo visibly dissatisfied, and not just because of his final position, but mainly due to the evident communication failure with his team. Finishing in fourth place on Saturday was surprising, but the three-place grid penalty compromised his entire Sunday. Even though he managed to overtake Isaac Hadjar and Fernando Alonso during the race, the British driver believed he could fight for fourth place with Max Verstappen, which did not happen. The gap to the top two drivers exceeded 40 seconds, something that clearly bothered him, leading to a moment of tension with his engineer at the end of the race. When asked about the significant time difference to the leaders, Hamilton responded with a dry no. Attempts were made to extract more details, trying to determine whether a strategic failure or a pit stop mistake had occurred, but he maintained the same impassive tone. Regarding the race, he summarized his feelings by saying he felt lost, not really knowing where he was competing. According to him, after starting in seventh due to the penalty, he was stuck behind two cars, managed to overtake them, but then remained isolated. He said that a safety car was the only thing that could have changed the course of the race, which did not happen. From that point on, everything unfolded in a predictable manner. The most emblematic moment of the race, however, occurred when Hamilton received an instruction from his engineer to push, stating that this was their race. The seven-time world champion did not hide his frustration with this communication, saying the message made no sense to him. He did not know who he was fighting at that moment, nor did he understand the team's strategy. Looking at the data, he said he was too far behind the cars ahead, and that even though he pushed the tires hard, there was no actual battle happening. At another point on the radio, Hamilton even asked if his engineer was mad at him. This sparked debates among experts, who began to wonder whether Hamilton had made a serious mistake or was merely reacting to the poor strategic execution by the team. With so many variables and new regulations in effect, finishing fifth and still seeing such a large gap to the leaders raises legitimate suspicions about what is going wrong at Ferrari. On the other hand, team principal Fred Vasseur downplayed the episode, explaining that engineers avoid talking to drivers in certain sections of the track to prevent mistakes during high-complexity corners. According to Vasseur, when a driver asks something between the first and third corners, the team is instructed to wait until the driver is on a calmer part of the circuit before responding. He emphasized that there is no bad intention or distraction from the team, and that this is merely a precaution to avoid miscommunication. For him, there was no tension after the race, and when he spoke to Hamilton in the paddock, everything seemed under control. Even so, the recurrence of similar incidents since the Miami Grand Prix suggests a crack in the relationship between Hamilton and Adami. And that is something direct rivals can take advantage of. Without full harmony between driver and engineer, the risk of a double underperformance increases, and that is exactly what Ferrari cannot afford right now. In a race where bolder strategies could have benefited Hamilton, he avoided traps, but finished far too distant from the leaders to feel satisfied. Finishing in fifth is not a disaster. In fact, this marks the second consecutive race where Hamilton finishes among the top five, suggesting some progress. However, with Charles Leclerc finishing in second place, it is clear the Monegasque is gaining strength within the team. This could lead to a natural prioritization of the higher-ranked driver, something Hamilton is unlikely to accept calmly. Monaco brought more than just a tough race. It also dealt a blow to the morale of an experienced driver, now looking ahead to a calendar filled with more traditional circuits. At this moment, Hamilton sits in 6th place in the overall drivers' standings, just 16 points behind the leader, but still with no wins this season. He has only 2 podiums and is behind George Russell, who already has a 20-point advantage. It is inevitable to recall that before the season began, the Italian team stated they would prioritize whichever driver showed real potential to fight for the title. Initially, this seemed distant, but now it could soon become a reality. The next round will be decisive in determining whether the new technical directive will rebalance the grid or if things will stay the same. The truth is that Hamilton arrived in Monaco sounding confident, while Leclerc stated that merely reaching the 3rd qualifying session would be an achievement. This statement was made just after the Imola race. What we saw over the weekend was an extremely competitive Leclerc, just 1/10 of a second away from pole position, while Hamilton could only manage the 4th fastest time. At the end of the race, Leclerc was honest in saying he was not completely satisfied, but acknowledged that the race had essentially been decided on Saturday. According to him, Lando Norris had delivered an impeccable performance and deserved the victory. Although he did not win, Leclerc stated that considering the low expectations with which he arrived at the Principality, the final result was excellent, even if he regretted not stepping onto the top of the podium. So now, what lies ahead for Ferrari? After such an intense weekend, the most urgent issue to be resolved is the communication between Hamilton and his engineer. Mid-race arguments, hints of disagreements, and lack of clarity are symptoms of a strained relationship. In critical moments, a simple phrase like, "We'll talk about it later, good race," can prevent unnecessary friction. But when even that is not said, the doubts only grow. If this situation continues, it will not be surprising to see new clashes between Hamilton and Adami in the coming stages of the season. With the Barcelona Grand Prix just around the corner, expectations are that the Italian team will be among the top 3 forces on the grid. If the technical changes have the intended effect and slow down the cars from Red Bull and McLaren, Ferrari could return to fighting for the front more consistently. However, the leadership of this movement will be crucial. Given the internal instability, Leclerc may end up taking the spotlight and becoming the face of the team in decisive moments. And knowing Hamilton, it is unlikely he will accept a secondary role without a fight. If he finds the right pace with the car, we could be on the verge of witnessing a dramatic turnaround in the upcoming races. And what about you? What did you think of the radio messages between Hamilton and his engineer? Do you believe this relationship could explode into an even bigger problem for the team? Leave your opinion in the comments and don't forget to check out the next video appearing on your screen right now.